Well, hello, healthcare finance students. Here we are in Module 3 of Summer of 23 and our normal weekly video. This one might be a little long and it's going to be a two-parter. So this part will be more kind of the traditional video blog for the week. We're going to do some housekeeping, talk about last week, talk about this week, but I'm also going to give you a preview of the midterm. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you watch all the way to the end because I'm going to go through 10 questions. Screenshot it, screen record, don't care. You can have 1/3 of the midterm already ready to go and solve by the time that you take it, if you wish. But I know there's some anxiety about what's it going to look like, how difficult the problems are. So you'll see 10 of those questions right off the bat. Then part 2, I'm going to shoot as a separate video as a sort of a live walkthrough of the ChatGPT assignment that we have this week. I solved it last week using GPT. Probably took me 15 to 20 minutes, if maybe that. Maybe more on the 15-minute side. I was using GPT-4. I'll tell you more about that in the video. So that probably accelerated it a little bit, but we'll use 3.5 and we'll just kind of muddle through it and you'll see how I approach it. And hopefully that kind of helps you guys in your approach to that assignment as well, but that will be a second video. All right, so let's go into kind of our normal here and talk a little bit about some housekeeping. And we'll get to our home page here. One of the things I want to draw your attention to is we're going to have the learning activity answers, not in all cases, but in many cases for select learning activities, you will find the answers, the full answers kind of in detail in this section here. Like for example, this week, our learning activity is a ChatGPT assignment. So I'm not going to post, the answers, but for our more traditional calculator oriented stuff, you'll find that in here. Also, I had some questions about the homework help. Had a student reach out and said it doesn't match. It doesn't match the question. So here's my little disclosure. Keep in mind that it may not follow exactly the specific questions, but will be very close and hopefully will help you set up many of the problems. Here's the background. These homework helps were all shot with the 6th edition of the textbook. The differences between the 6th and the 7th edition are very small. The numbers are almost exactly the same. I think they're exactly the same for every problem. What they did do is they changed the name of locations. So one might be Green Valley Hospital in the 6th edition, but they changed it to River Rock Hospital in the 7th edition. Don't know why. Doesn't make any sense. But there was some, I guess, non-essential verbiage changes done to some of them. But the numbers and all of that was exactly the same. What they also did is they dumbed down the 7th edition a little bit compared to the 6th. So for example, I'm just going to make this up, but for example, let's say there was a problem 12.3 in the 6th edition. Okay, so that 12.3 might have an A, B, C, and D component that you have to answer. When I got the 7th edition, I looked at it and go, oh, everything's the same. But I was like, oh no, they've only got an A and a B, or A, B, C. I mean, they eliminated some extra parts of that problem for you to calculate. In the homework help, I'm going through all of those. So you may go and what is he talking about? He's talking about a section B. This is not even on here. Well, ignore it. Move on, because I'll probably then talk about the next section, which will match what you're doing. So again, watch the thing in its entirety and you'll kind of go, okay, this one matches here. Here's the setup on how to do this part of it. Because when I looked at it, I was like, there's no reason to reshoot because it's pretty much all here. And actually there's a little extra in there that that the 6th edition have that the 7th doesn't. So there you go. But really, with these homework activities that you're doing, you've got the lectures. Usually, I try not to ask you a problem from the back of the book that doesn't match a lecture. And then you've got the homework help, and then you've got the text itself. Typically the lecture videos are going to show you the shortcuts. It's going to show you using the online calculators. Remember to, and I highly, use those online calculators. They're going to save you time. They're going to save you consternation. They're going to take an assignment that may take 3 hours and take it down to maybe an hour. So use those calculators. And to show your work, screenshot that calculator. A lot of you are doing that, which is great. Some of you will screenshot the calculator and then you'll, put a little text, a little box around the answer. Great. Draws my eye to it. I know that that's the answer output that you got. Perfect. Move on. Full points. And what's great about the calculator is if you plug something in and goes, oh, that's wonky. It shouldn't be a negative value there. I must have done something wrong. Okay, here's what then you can go back and play with it a couple times and go, okay, this intuitively makes sense. This has got to be, got to be the answer. So there you go. That's what I would recommend. Use those calculators. Don't do anything longhand. But a few of you are, which is fine. And some of you are doing longhand and getting it completely right. But I know it's taking you a lot of time to do that. So again, if we talk about a calculator, definitely my recommendation is to use that. So there you go. All right, let's talk about this week. That's kind of ends our housekeeping section here. This week in Module 3, of course, we've got that midterm and the ChatGPT Learning Activity Extra Credit. There is an Easter egg in one of the lectures. I don't remember where. There's an Easter egg in there where I, here, solve this or explain that or whatever it might be. There's a couple of these in the course. Up to you. If you watch the lectures, you'll find it. If you don't, no big deal. Okay. There'll be other opportunities for extra credit that do not involve, Easter eggs within the lecture. My policy on extra credit is you can do it at any time, as long as it's in before the end of the course. So if you're like, geez, I really need that 10 points. I don't think I'm going to get an A. You can go back. You can do it. Totally up to you. So there's that about the extra credit. All right, so let's jump into the midterm. So get your phones ready, screenshot, whatever you want to do. And remember the learning activity, the ChatGPT assignment will be a separate video. All right, so let's go into the midterm. And we will review, or I should say preview, 10 questions. Won't give you the answers, but you can get those on yourself. Okay, so we got a future value question. I tried to make the inputs very clear. So the way I would approach this is I'd have my, on one browser tab, I'd have all my or maybe a couple, have my calculators that I've been using in this course ready to go. So I can know, all right, here's the future value. I'm going to use the Arachnoid calculator or whatever. I'm going to go to that one, plug in my inputs, be done, move on to the next question. And I give you ample time, like 3 hours. So hopefully everybody should be able to get like an amazing score on this midterm. Present value question. Remember these opportunity cost rates, discount rate, interest rate, all the same thing. Question 3 is a future value. Again, a calculation-oriented question. Here we go on a savings certificate. It's compounded annually. We'll move you out value at maturity. Savings certificate or certificates of deposit are these things where a bank, you give a bank, let's say $1,000. They have different terms that you can choose from. Let's say you pick a 24-month term. You give the bank $1,000. At the end of 24 months, they're going to give you $1,000 plus some interest. And that interest rate is going to be higher than most of the other vehicles that the bank has, offers, because it's not liquid. You can't take the money out. I mean, you can redeem it early with a penalty, and that penalty might even be a loss of interest. or usually it's almost always a loss of interest, but it might be also a loss of principal. So let's say that you put $1,000 in there, you pick 24-month term. I don't know, make this up. They give you, 5% interest rate. You're like, great. An emergency happens and you need to get that $1,000 out, and it happens, 2 months later, right after you put it in there. Chances are you're not going to get your full $1,000 back. You might get $990 back. So that's going to kind of hurt. You really shouldn't. These are deposit and forget it vehicles. So put it in there, forget about it, and then you get your money back plus your interest. But there you go. So that there's a question on that, where the annual compounding. Question 5. This is our perpetuity question. We've got a lecture on that. And then we have some conceptual questions. So this is a kind of one that explores quarterly compounding versus annual compounding. Which is better? Which would, what would be less for you? So kind of just, again, think about which, if you kind of know which one's better, then you can kind of answer that question. Number 7. Again, a true false. So not everything's a calculation. So you're probably going, thank God. This is really questioning present value and the discount rate and compounding periods, with increasing those. What's the relationship, between that? Another conceptual question about discount rate and future value. This one, number 9. Again, we've just did, 4? 4 of these that don't require a calculator. So again, more conceptual stuff. Present value of a future lump sum of $100 will be, will be what? I'm not asking for a specific number, more or less equal to. And then number 10 is a narrative question. With these narratives, make sure you have a couple sentences in there at least. And of course, you have a browser available to you. So it shouldn't be just 3 words. Sometimes I have that. We only get 3 words for some of these narrative, and there's some points taken off for that. So make sure, again, you have all these tools at the ready. This is open book, open note, open internet test. So use that. So there's no reason for you guys not to get 98s or 100% on this, especially with the ample time given. All right, so that covers the review of the preview of that midterm. So hopefully that helps. I try to make the questions much more, more straightforward. And when we do have calculations necessary, they lend themselves, hopefully easy to calculator input. All right, guys, that pretty much covers it for this week and our normal update. Make sure you watch kind of my ChatGPT walkthrough. We'll see how that goes with this week's assignment. All right, everybody have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.